Now we will discuss the types of spoilage causing microorganisms. They can be microorganisms or they can be the macro organisms or the larger animals. For example, all these organisms can include bacteria, fungi, insects, rodents, and birds. So these microorganisms and the other larger animals, for example, birds and rodents, insects, etc., for their own growth, they would be also relying on the same food that we do rely. So in that exercise, they would be spoiling a lot of our food, and they do cause a lot of economic losses. If we talk about the first and the foremost important spoilage organism, that is bacteria, as you know, they are the responsible for the very huge economic losses to the food. And not only the economic losses, as I earlier said, that they also affect the safety of food. They do cause a lot of foodborne illness and disease as well. Some of the examples of bacteria that affect the food are Clostridium botulinum. This is a food poisoning bacteria. This is present in canned foods and beverages. It can also be found in honey as well. This does create a lot of toxicity, and that can also lead to death as well. Some of the other groups of bacteria are Micrococcus. They cause rancidity in food. By rancidity, we mean this is the deteriorative process involves the breakdown of lipids, and that results in off flavors and undesirable end products that would affect the quality of food. Another group of bacteria are Lactobacillus. They are gas former bacteria. Sometimes you can observe that maybe the canned product, they could be bulging because there is a growth of these kind of bacteria in the canned product. So that would produce gases, and that would have undesirable flavors, and they would affect the quality of food in a way that it becomes spoiled, and it would be unacceptable. Similarly, Flavobacterium is another class of bacteria that changes the color of food, make it decolored. So that again is a kind of factor that would make our food unacceptable. The next group of food spoiling organisms are fungi and mold. They are quite dangerous because they would be attacking on the most of the agricultural produce, for example, crops such as wheat, rice, and pulses. They do cause a lot of disease and the pathologies in crops as well as in the stored products, for example, the stored grains as well. Some of the very common diseases like black rot of wheat or the black spots in rice kernels, these are the examples where you can see the spoilage of food in field or during the storage operations. On the other hand, molds, they normally grow on bread and the bakery products, and this problem, if it's not controlled, it becomes very serious in bread industry when there are mold attack in the breads, and they're very difficult to be eliminated. Insects are another organisms which are very important when it comes to the spoilage of food. They attack on the cereals, pulses, fruits, vegetables, etc. For their own growth. If we talk about the number of insects that are present, they basically outnumber the human population. So there is a very stiff competition between humans and insects basically for the utilization of food that is available in the planet. They can come from the soil, and they can attack any kind of food. Apparent effect on the food is they would be deforming the food. As for example, as I said, that most of the grains can be broken down by the action of insects. They also soften the tissue due to the spoilage of food. Rodents are another class that could be rats and mouse or rabbits. They greatly spoil the food and destroy food as well. For example, fruits, vegetables, cereals, meat, cheese products, and it has to be controlled to avoid the spoilage of food or the consumption of food from these groups. Uh, Unlike other microorganisms, they can make the deformity in the food. They can change the shape of the food when they eat it or consume it. They also cause foodborne illness. There are a lot of diseases that are transferred through these rodents and from birds as well, because birds would be affecting your production in the field. They would be attacking on many of the grains in the field. They can make food rotten in a way that these birds or rodents, when they attack food, they might be carrying certain microorganisms or pathogens or spoilage microorganisms. So they actually act as, not only they deform the food, they can act as carrier as well. And same is true for the insects as well, because insects, they, while feeding on our food, they do transfer and transmit the pathogenic microorganism to food and other spoilage microorganism to the food as well. On the other hand, even if they don't transmit these pathogens, they are not acceptable, and they are not something that is desirable. So whenever there's an incidence of rodent attack or insect attack or birds attack to any of the food industry, whenever they are found in any food industry, the process has to be stopped, because there are chances that these organisms can bring undesirable effects of the food that they have basically contaminated. So this was all about different types of organisms which are involved for the spoilage of food, and the different ways in actually they spoil food.